Boss. Get this, get this young man.
Excuse me, good evening. Let me try it again. Good evening. Every day is a good day not to be in intensive care, and every day is a great day to be above ground. We come here seeking no personal glory or the glory of God, our students, our taxpayers, and our staff. The glory of God, our students, taxpayers, and staff. Our purpose today is to data review and celebration, review of programming curriculum, vocabulary instruction and literacy, grammar instruction, curriculum framework, cycle for continuous improvement, upcoming focus groups, upcoming projects and plans for 2017 to 2018, classroom school-wide and district science fair, literature-based social studies, questions and comments from the public, and closing comment would be by Ms. Jane Harvard and adjournment by myself. My name is, for those who might know, my name is Mr. Robert E. Wright, Sr. I'm the chairperson of the Education Committee. For those who, this may be your first time, can I raise your hand? How many here this is your first time? All right, great. We hopefully see you again. I have a couple of comments to make. Over the summer, I met with one former superintendent from the Springfield School District. And this conversation was Springfield School District was just a zip code away from the Winnipeg School District. Why is Springfield School District striving and being maybe number one in the state? Why is this not happening for the Winnipeg School District? And he said that was unfair. So today, our purpose is to start moving in that direction. Why can't we not only be number one in the district, but why can't we be one of the top school districts in the state? And I believe with this turnout today, and what was, I believe that was driven by the parents and their concern, what they would like to see that our children being taught, I would like to see that what is being taught in the parochial schools and private schools should be taught here in the Winnipeg School District. We should make all our students college ready and also career ready. So our next comment would be to the board and to the public. Each board member, so we can move right along, would have one question and we stay on task. We are here to really hear from the public. Everybody would have a chance to state their questions. No school board director or administration would quickly dominate and set with their presentation. We really want to hear from the public. So that would be our purpose today. So I believe I have the consensus of the school board directors. Usually we don't follow suit, but today we are. So I really would appreciate that. So with that in mind, we will begin with our first presentation, be Ms. Jane Harvard for the data review and celebration.
Thank you, Mr. Wright.
Oh, you're welcome.
One of the things that we do in the district frequently is look at our data. We look at it on a weekly basis. We look at it at a quarterly basis. And so today I'd kind of like to review with you what we look at from a quarterly basis. We do it district-wide. We do it at each individual school. Each school has what we call our quarterly Success Network meetings where they review the data. And we do it here at the district office at the meetings where we have Leading for Success. So one of the things that we know is important is to continuously look at the data to see that make sure that our children are making the progress that they should be making. So the first slide I have up here is, we look at our baseline data, which is at the beginning of the year, then our first quarter, and then second quarter data. And what I'm looking at, what you're looking at here, and what I'm explaining is, where were we this time last year, 2015-16, to where we are currently this year with students who are reading at or above grade level. And this is from a district level. We have it for each school, and we have it, but we're not going to go there tonight. We're just going to look at the district level. And so you can see that we are ahead with the percentage, this is not numbers, the percentage of students who are reading at or above grade level compared to this time last year. And we look at this on a regular basis, knowing who's on level, who's not, and the questions. One of the things I said to the folks I worked with last week is, data is not a problem solver, it's a problem finder. So knowing that when we look at this, we have to say, it's not where we want to be, it's better than we've been, but what do we do to have to get better? I'm going to explain a couple things. The reason why we don't have second quarter data for kindergarten is we haven't collected that yet. And we don't have last year for 7th and 8th grade because they were not implementing last year. Okay. So I do have the review for the middle school. And we do have baseline, 8th grade, for 7th, 8th grade, and then combining them. So at the beginning of the year, we had 51% of our students reading at or above grade level. Right now, we're at 59%. So we've had growth every quarter. The 8th grade, we started with only 33% of our students reading at grade level, and now we have 58% of our kids reading on grade level. When we combine them, we went from 42% at the beginning of the year to 58%. That's mid-year. Our goal is to be higher than that by the end of the year.
Quick question, Jane. When you say 7th and 8th grade wasn't implementing, what weren't they?
They weren't implementing the reading program, Reading Edge, and we weren't doing the scholastic reading inventory with collecting that data. Yeah. Now, that's a good clarifying point. Thank you. Okay. So one of the things we are celebrating, not only do we celebrate with our staff, but we celebrate with our students too. So one of the things that at the middle school, they put up posters to let children know how many, and we gave the scholastic reading inventory, and that's measured on Lexiles, and every teacher out here understands when we're talking about Lexiles. But that's how the scholastic reading inventory determines what level they're reading on. And so the instructional facilitators took the children's names and put them in groups of who made 50 points game, who made 100 points, 150 to 200. Posted it, and the children could not wait to get out there to see their names out there on that, where they were and how much gains they had made. Okay. And then the other thing we do at Walnut Elementary is doing, we just copied that over from Mr. Williams, and apparently it added music to his slides. But one of the things that Mr. Williams at Walnut Elementary has implemented, he meets with the children to review their data. He tells them how many children are reading at or above grade level. He tells them what their word count fluency is. Those are the things we measure for our children. And then tells them what their goals are so that they can be excited and ready to achieve those goals also. Every school does this in a different way. Mr. Williams has just decided that he does an assembly and does this presentation. And so I am supposed to tell the board members that he will be doing this next Friday on the 24th and I will get you the times. He sent me the times, I just can't remember. And I will send it out to you, and he would like for you, if you would like to come see him give this presentation and celebration with the students, that you're more than welcome to attend. But I will send the time, specific time out to you. Okay, so not that I wanted to, take too much time with the data, but we do celebrate, and we are making progress with the students and their reading levels. Okay, so thank you, Mr. Wright, and we'll.
Okay, is there any questions now? Anybody in the back row? Okay, school board, do you have any questions? All right, anyone, you do?
I just want to suggest that we get someone to kind of bring more chairs, and there's a lot of people outside in the hall yet, and we can't go to the high school because they have some kind of prevention going on that we were not aware of.
Okay,
I'll check with it, and
Okay.
Mr.
all right. Anybody in the back row? Or if not,
Well, was there a data collection?
Yes.
What did we collect data with in the middle school before Reading Edge, before the SI? What was that?
What did we collect data with?
Yes. at the middle school.
Prior to Reading Edge? They used Study Island, but it wasn't being collected in this way.
Okay. Was it effective at all, or no?
Study Island?
I mean,
I can't answer that if you at this moment. I don't have that data.
well, I can answer that. I don't know how the middle school used Study Island, but Study Island is a very effective learning learning vehicle that can be used or computer generated and help students to progress to understand the PSSA test. Also could help them with the SAT, the ACT, and parents can use Study Island individually. I had some friends who did that, and now their daughter is studying abroad over in London, just practice on Study Island every day, so she wound up in a 98 percentile. So it's a very effective tool, and believe it or not, it started right here at East Lansdowne Basic School. And then it spread out into some of the other school districts. But it's a very effective tool. I would recommend any parent to use it.
I was just asking because she was the curriculum director before Thames.
That's okay.
Okay.
Good question.
All right, next would be review of programming and curriculum, Ms. Marie Thompson, and vocabulary instruction and literacy.
Very good. So before Marie starts talking about her the vocabulary that we see in our literacy program quarterly, I wanted to take just a moment and talk about the importance of vocabulary instruction. There have been numerous studies over roughly the last 100 years that talks about the size of a person's vocabulary is in direct correlation with how well they will do financially as they become adults. People with smaller vocabularies tend to not have the best paying jobs, the most jobs related to science and math and technology. And one of some statistics that I thought would be very interesting to start our discussion off is that we know through, these are 3 of about 175 studies that exist currently, that children who have lower oral vocabularies, A, have a more difficult time reading, B, have a much more difficult time expressing themselves, and again, as I said, later on in life, they are adults that tend not to have the best paying jobs. Now, of course, we can't always paint a broad brush with everybody, but statistically, this is what we have found. Once these differences are in place, they're hard to overcome. They can be done with a lot of intensive and focused work, but it does take that intense and focused work. This was a very interesting study that has been used in universities, has been used for educational policy, and it is about word poverty among toddler children. And a group of researchers in the mid-90s went to Kansas City, Missouri, into 3 different neighborhoods and evaluated how many words children heard in their household based on socioeconomic status. Now again, you can't paint a broad brush with a broad brush. But what they found was that the difference in levels of children's vocabulary based upon their parents' education and current employment was absolutely startling. How do we overcome that? By making sure that kids are exposed to as many words as we can possibly give them. Not by looking up all the time what the definition is, but not knowing a word, and you as a parent or you as a teacher saying, oh, that means, and giving them the word and moving on. Are they going to keep that word here forever? Maybe. But at least there has been exposure to that word, which is the most important thing that we can do for children. Beyond the oral language, before school, what we see later is really startling with reading achievement. Along this line is the chronological age, so from age 5 to age 15, and reading age level. What we have seen in our studies is that low oral language in kindergarten creates about a 5-year difference when children are in their teens as to their reading level. That's shocking. That's startling. That's frightening. So my message before we get started with Marie talking about the opportunities that our children have for language is to make sure you're talking to the kids, make sure you're giving them as many new words as you possibly can, and we have to make sure that we're teaching our children how to speak with elevated vocabularies. Don't say red, say maroon. Don't say orange. Give another synonym for it. Give them that word. The best way to increase vocabulary is to make sure the children have exposure. They get that through hearing you speak. They get that through a wide range of reading. And when I say wide range, I'm talking about scientific books, magazine articles, literature. Anything they read where they can encounter new words is going to be helpful. Visit your libraries, take out some books. That will be one of the best ways that the children are exposed to words, even if they don't remember them all the time. At least they've had that exposure, and when they come back around later to it, when they're a little older, gee, I heard that before. I remember that. It gets in there and lets them start making sense of the proper context to use that word. So what we're going to do now is Ms. Thompson from Evans Elementary is going to talk about the opportunities for vocabulary instruction for our children within the current literacy program.
I thank the board and the parents and the community members to have this opportunity. Thanks, I saw it. And to have this opportunity to share an overview of what we do during cover vocabulary in our classrooms. I have my notes just in case I need them, so excuse me for that. I think it's important that we have information that's common. We're going to visit an overview just to base conversations on. That way the same information is known and we can move on from there and cover any other questions that may come up once the conversations and the information is given. We have vocabulary built into our Kinder Corner, which is for our kindergartners, Roots, and Wings, and that's all for elementary. We also have vocabulary built into Edge, which is now implemented in the middle school. So we're going to go through all 4 of those. Kindergarten, we have vocabulary that is sent home in a parent letter. So if you have a kindergartner, there's themes. So every 10 days there's a new theme, and there's a parent letter. So you would see some of those vocabulary words sent home at that level. If you're not, then that's a question you could be asking. So that way you could try to support that at home. Like I alluded to, the themes are for 2 weeks, so it's a 10-day cycle. And there's research, and Beth is one researcher that really covers vocabulary. And there's research that shows that a child to be able to receptively use language so they could hear and understand the vocabulary, they need to have exposure 8 to 10 times. And then to expressively use, which means that a child could actually use that vocabulary word orally, and as part of their vocabulary, there needs to be 16 to 20 exposures to that word. So we have repeated experiences built into the programs. So we embed vocabulary throughout the day, because for kindergarten, the program is a full day program, not just a 90-minute reading block, or a 60-minute reading block at the middle school. So we teach vocabulary through the day, it's sent home, and then we also assess vocabulary, and it's called a structured oral language observation. You're going to hear that as a solo from this point. We just refer to as solos. So what I want to do is just go through exactly how the vocabulary is designed throughout the lessons.
Excuse me, that's a sample of what the kindergartners would learn?
Within a theme. So
Within a
here
theme.
there's some background words.
And we teach them how to decode these words?
This is for vocabulary for oral language.
Just for oral language, okay.
The main objective of kindergarten would be build that oral language.
Okay.
So these are words that are important for a conversation, to know for conversation purposes.
Okay.
Not for a reading purpose.
Okay. Oh, so they won't read them?
Thank you. That was a good clarifying point. So then we go on, in order to be able to do our instruction, students have many opportunities. We start the day with a theme exploration. So that is all tied around immersing the children within the themes. So there could be a morning message where the children do like an interactive writing piece the teacher's writing and the students are talking about it, and that the vocabulary words are just embedded into that. And there's also opportunities to have conversations with the peers and the teachers at that time. The STAR literature is something that is used within Kinder Roots, and you'll hear about this again when we get to Roots, which is the first grade reading level. STAR is an interactive read aloud. So the material is higher reading ability than the grade level. So kindergarten, it's a piece of literature. First grade, you're going to hear about that when we get to Roots. And it's interactive so that the students, there'll be questions asked, which the students can think about, talk to a partner with, and then share out to the whole group, which allows the use and practice of the vocabulary words that are being taught. Again, we want that repeated practice, because that's how it becomes part of our innate ability to use the words. And we also have labs in kindergarten, which some people may refer to as centers, just to give you an understanding of what the lab is. It's a very structured time. The children are exploring the theme, and it encourages the use of the theme vocabulary. The teachers go from lab to lab and engage in conversations, listen for students who are using the vocabulary or perhaps a synonym to one of the vocabulary words, and try to broaden the scope of use. So that is how we use and instruct for the vocabulary in kinder, which leads us to our solo. So our solo is given at the end of the quarter for kindergarten, and it's an authentic assessment, so it's a one-on-one assessment. And the students work with the teacher. They're given an opportunity to be able to use their vocabulary that has been taught. There are 4 expressive words, vocabulary words, and 16 of the words that, there's 4 of the vocabulary words that are receptively. So can they understand it, finding any piece of literature that they have worked with. And then the rest of the vocabulary words are expressively, can the student use the words in their verbally use the words. So that's our kinder program. Then we move up to Roots program, and the Roots is used for children reading on a first grade level. And again, Star Story is the main way that we facilitate the instruction of vocabulary within Roots. It's a 30-minute block of our 90 minutes. So we have our 90-minute reading block, 30 minutes that is devoted to vocabulary. Again, it's a piece of literature above the child's reading level, so we are broadening the vocabulary that's used. There's both literature and informational text. So it brings up all types of vocabulary words. It brings in some of the sciences. Like one of the examples I think for roots that I always think of and struggled with when we first started using roots was there was a book, Birds, and the word hollow. The bones are hollow. The bones are hollow, and the children weren't getting hollow. So it was, okay, let's get a straw to blow through the straw. So we kind of let it be hands-on. So that's what we talk about interactive. There's some, we could bring relics, which are examples of things, or the straw would be a relic of what the hollow bone would be like, but then conversations as well. It's anything to help the child make a connection to the vocabulary word so that it becomes part of their verbal use. So that's where we do our instructing. So Bear Snores On is one of our stories in roots. And we have star words, which are lair and storm and spark and snuff. So the words specific to the story. But then there's background words that our students need to know. A cave, obviously the bear goes into a cave. So the cave, share, snores, and crowd. So there's different types of words, but they're the words that we try to elicit from the children when we're having conversations during STAR. And then hope to hear them. I was going down the hall the other day, and I stopped at a classroom because as an instructor facilitator, I'm not in the classroom. So I'm the lucky one that gets to go from room to room and see the excitement. So I'm going down, and one of the classes are lining up, and they're like, boy, I'm ravenous. I can't wait. I could run down to the cafeteria. Of course, somebody in the room chuckles, and I'm like, ravenous? Where did you get that? Oh, it's our vocabulary word for the week. So that's what we're trying to encourage, is the use of vocabulary. So that's our instruction. And again, for the roots, we use the solo. Oh, yes.
So, I haven't seen my child come home with these vocabulary words or with like definitions or the way.
Okay, are they?
My kid is in first grade, and my two other kids came through with this same program, and one of them is now in middle school. And this was one of the things that I brought up before. We as parents are not activated. We don't get these tools to go over with our student. I remember being in elementary school, and I came home every week with a whole set of 20 vocabulary words in. Before the end of that week, by Wednesday, I knew how to use the word in a sentence. I knew the definition of the word. I knew the form of the form of speech, whether it was a noun, a pronoun, or adjective. But like we don't. Go ahead.
Sorry.
We as parents, we don't get that information. So how are we supposed to reinforce that to our students?
And I think that this is a very good forum that we're starting with. So that's why when I said I think it's important that we have the same common lens, because now maybe that's something we have to really think about. Do we attach and let the vocabulary come home with the read and respond? So these are questions I would bring back to your building. And it's conversations that when we as facilitators meet with Janira Rodriguez, who is our district coach, who communicates with Ms. Harbert, that we could say, you know what, there are pieces that we definitely can improve. We're here to help our children be the best they can. So I think it's really important that we hear the concerns, because if you were able to know exactly what words we were looking for, you could try to elicit at home or have those conversations. And I think information's power, and the more power we all have, the better we can service all of our children in the district. So I think these will lead to next steps that are going to be a positive outcome. So I appreciate you bringing that up, because you're right, kindergarten has a list that goes home in the newsletter. So if you read the newsletter, it's there. And some teachers may choose to send home the words, but it's not part of the subscribed activity to do. So I think it is an important thing that we all hear that and develop our next steps. So I think that'll be a note that I put.
Let me ask you a question. Are you finished your presentation or continue?
We have wings and edge to do.
All right, I have some questions too.
Okay, because it was more about kindergarten, so you want to wait till the end?
Oh, go ahead.
Or you want to do
Go ahead.
kindergarten now? Go ahead.
Just a quick question. How would you describe the overall readiness of our kindergarten students day one? And two questions. And do we feel as though if there is a deficiency, that our program in kindergarten meets the needs with those deficiencies that are coming in.
I actually, and this is personal belief as Marie Thompson, the instructional facilitator, that I'm saying this. If my child came into the kinder program here, I would be elated with what is provided. The whole day, it provides opportunities to build oral language.
Even with the deficiencies day one?
We have, and I'm not going to mention any names, but in a kindergarten class, in our classroom right now, we have one of the two classrooms have several students who have a lot of language issues. They came in, already identifies. And we have seen great gains. Because of that repetition that's allowed, lab is a natural, almost play look to a child. They think they're playing because it's a structured opportunity to use the language. And the teachers will come, well, the teacher comes in as instructional facilitator in her, the teacher, we talk, we collaborate, and try to find additional ways to model. And if a child uses a sentence, or like part of a sentence, like a phrase, we'll repeat a full sentence back. If the word's used incorrectly, then we just fix it and repeat back. And there are opportunities within the whole day to do that. So yes, I think that it definitely builds enough practice for students that come in a little bit below where they should, but also all levels of learners can be challenged within our kindergarten program. Yes.
I have a question. With the kids coming to kindergarten and don't know apple is red and orange is orange, banana is yellow, we have a big problem there. I mean, I had the opportunity to put both kids through pre-K. Wouldn't it benefit us if we had a pre-K for our children to get them ready? And
Okay, you're
Well, wait a
talking
minute.
to the choir here,
Hold on.
my passion.
Hold on. I'm speaking here. I don't feel that I should be interrupted,
I'm sorry.
and I won't interrupt anybody else
I'm
because that's
very
the
sorry.
respect I show. But that is a Benny. Now, why don't we go back to the basics? Where if this isn't working, why don't we go back to the basic program that was phenomenal back in the day? And then the parents had a monthly meeting with the school. We had to sign all the work. We had to look at the work. And then when the children moved up in years, the math became very difficult. Instead of adding math right to left, it came left to right. And I'm like, oh, hold the bus. I don't know what I'm doing here. But I'm finding it I am so elated and excited that all this crowd is out tonight. Because this is a major issue we have to hit. We need to do something to combat because our scores are so low. And I think it needs to start at a pre-K level, then kindergarten. That's my personal feeling. So, and I'm going to ask another question, but I know Robert's going to limit us. But I think back to basic program back in the day was top-notch.
We can still bring that question up. We want her to finish her presentation.
Right,
then we
I
can
think
bring-
that's beyond my scope. I do think that early intervention is important. So that's what I'm saying. I totally agree that early intervention is important. And I do think that our kindergarten program allows a lot of repetition, and it lets you differentiate with the types of learners within the program. So that's all I could speak to. I think everything else is beyond me as a facilitator.
After you finish your
But thank you for bringing that up.
After you finish your presentation, maybe maybe some others may
Yeah.
want to ask you questions.
That's fine.
Continue, please.
So WINGS is for our readers who are reading level, the second reading grade level up. We transitioned into the WINGS program. And there are various opportunities throughout our 90-minute block to cover vocabulary again. So the 2-minute edit is literally 2 minutes, but it's a daily event. And there's the teachers create sentences. So that's a natural place to put in vocabulary words that they're working on for that cycle, because the cycles are 6 days. There is a definite vocabulary section, and this is going to go back to the question, to the comment about parents knowing. There is exact vocabulary words assigned for each 6-day cycle. And it has the vocabulary words, it has definition, and what we call the meaningful sentence, which I'll explain. So again, perhaps that's a piece of information that could be shared. The meaningful sentence is something that we ask the students to create and to write down. And there's actually a rubric. That should be the next slide. Oh, here it is. So the students could write a sentence just using the word correctly. The desert is dry because of a drought, and the vocabulary word might be drought. They use the word correctly. Or the desert, there's a drought in the desert. That would be an 80. The desert is dry because of the drought. Give me a detail. Now I know drought has something to do with dry. So you get a 90 there. To put a 100-point rubric score for a vocabulary word, the student has to be able to write a sentence that there's really no other word that could be replaced except for a synonym. So that means that that child truly understands what the vocabulary word means. And that is how we can assess throughout our cycle how the students are doing with our vocabulary. So that's mean the procedure that I really didn't touch on has where the students read the words, be able to tell what it means, they work with the partner. So that's that repetitive practice through days 1 through 4 of the cycle. And then the assessment is our day 5 of our cycle. And on day 5, the students have to write a meaningful sentence for one of the vocabulary words, which we've been able to have multiple practice with various vocabulary words that were assigned. And then the word power assessment, because the word power also has, there's another slide for word power, I think, but there's 19 different skills that are taught for the word power. Base words and suffixes, homophones, abbreviations. So the more we can teach about the English language, the easier it is for a child to figure out a word also. So that's how it kind of ties into that vocabulary. And then we have assessment opportunities, because without the assessment, we really don't know if our students are getting what we need them to get, to really master. So the meaningful sentence, we use our rubric score. So this is a teacher record form, and we collect our data on this weekly for the cycle. So the teachers record that score there. Then we have the word power section of the assessment, the day 5 assessment, with comprehension and word power. So the word power is going to let us know, and that's really is where all this goes into Member Center, which is our data, like a data warehouse, and we could look at that data and really figure out what's going on with the child. Is there a breakdown? Where is that breakdown? Teachers look at it for planning. Teachers and facilitators could look at it and really come up with some interventions if need be, or to stretch someone, see if we need to add more layers of scaffolding for the vocabulary development. And we also provide reports from Member Center that are specific, and there is a vocabulary report. So that we could look at this at the end of each cycle, we could look at it quarterly, look at it when we're trying to figure out a mastery. So there's lots of uses, but the data's right there. And it's so important to have that information when we try to meet the student needs. Which leads us up to the middle school for Reading Edge. So in the Reading Edge, there are, this is where I kind of get my notes. I lost track of my notes. Reading Edge has levels 2 and 3 is very similar to Wings. So the structure is the same. And then we have word power journals for levels 4 through 8, which is honors. And in that, each child has their own journal from the district, so the students could be writing down and keeping track of the vocabulary. And, sorry, I need my glasses. Again, rubric grace, so this is something that the students are familiar with because we start with rubrics young and just keep going through. If a student can put a word in their journal or a phrase and tell why it was added to them, whether it was interesting or it was an important word for what they're reading, the child would score an 80. A 90 means that they met that 80 points, but they also were able to explain the meaning in a definition or a meaningful sentence. Because again, if you use the word in a meaningful sentence, that word would be replaced with a synonym. We know that the child understands the use of the word, or the meaning of the word. And 100, the student can actually go beyond that, give a related word. What is the content? Can they give us an antonym? A second meaning to the word? So it goes into more word study type of activities in the EDGE program. It's really, this, could you just go back? This is a piece here where it says 100-point response. Students must fully explore the words they find interesting or important from the text. They must show that they use other resources such as dictionaries, thesauruses, background knowledge to identify synonyms, antonyms, and connections with other words. If a child can do that, they understand they understand the word. It builds the oral language. It allows, and Mr. McKay spoke about all those statistics. This is the opportunity for our students to build the vocabulary that really sets them up for success. The assessment collection of data is very similar to what we do in WINGS. And we collect weekly and put in to Member Center. And this, the word power meaningful sentence is on the record form. And again, we could look at this data weekly, we could look at it quarterly, and it is looked at as part of the mastery. So that is the end of the presentation, so we can go to questions.
All right, any questions? Excuse me.
Go ahead.
Ms. Thomas, just stand up front, please. Any questions for these school board directors?
Yeah, I do have a quick one about the data and assessments. So I remember in some of our previous meetings, a couple parents have asked about difficulties in getting a snapshot about where their student is in real time, you know, how often, how frequently we revisit and communicate. So, for example, if a child is behind a month or two into the school year, how can we identify and communicate those issues earlier? Or even if it's not at the quarter end? What do we have in place to be able to have that streamlined flow of communication?
Okay, I'm going to be honest, I cannot answer for EDGE.
Okay, no.
Okay, so I'm letting you know that. Kindergarten, we're fortunate that some buildings see parents because the walkers, but the parents that are students who bus who don't pick up, they don't get that opportunity as often. I can speak for Evans, our teachers reach out to parents. Roots, when we get to the end of Roots, there's certificates that could go home when they get towards the end because it prepares our students for the WINGS program. So there is a tool that could go home at that point in time. WINGS, at the end of the cycle, are student certificates that says, because we do points. So it tells you if you're a WOW, super team. So it tells you how the team did, but on the bottom, there is all the individual data. So I think as a parent, if I was getting that, I would be able to say, oh, okay, comprehension has been low a couple weeks in a row. As a parent, I may be alarmed, and I would reach out. And I think then teachers would make contact. Other than that, it's how the teachers reach out as well, but there should be some data going home on the student certificates.
Maybe we could think of ways
So
to
that-
be more proactive as a district as well, and greater touch points throughout the year.
Other than our
Right.
midterm and end of quarter.
All right, before,
We have progress reports, we have report cards. But you mean proactive and not waiting for a formal document.
all right, any other questions from, in the back? Or, please. Anybody in the back? All right, anybody hadn't heard from yet? All right, first and you second. Go ahead.
My only question regarding middle school implementation of Leading Edge is how are the teachers trained and prepped to implement the program? How long do they have to train? How much, training implementation information do they get? Because sometimes my students' feedback is that there's some difficulty with like timing and things of that nature. If they have enough time, those kind of things. So that's the question that I would like to discuss.
Okay. There was Successful All had coaches coming in. Coaches come in, I'm sorry, I wanted to make sure we weren't missing something important. Coaches come in and train our teachers. It'd be prior to implementation. Then there's facilitator, like myself, at the building. Is a resource for teachers. Matter of fact, they have one there full-time and then another facilitator is there to support, since it's a large building. So they have like 1.5. So that position is built in for support. And then we also have what we call point coaches that come from the SFA and meet within the building with the leadership team. And then that information, monthly?
Yes,
Okay,
monthly.
thank you. I wasn't sure at the time. So they're at a monthly level, since it's newer implementation, they have a higher level of support. And then that information goes out. And your pacing, no matter what we do, there's pacing issues doing math, there's pacing issues doing writing. It's a matter of taking that moment, knowing when that teachable moment is. You don't want to miss something, yet we want to be able to get through the needed curriculum piece, program pieces to support. So I think pacing is part of that art of teaching. And sometimes there are issues. I'm not going to say that that doesn't happen, because
I know the program is new, and I know teachers are having difficulty with teaching it. So I just wanted to know what kind of training.
yeah, and there's multiple levels of support.
Excuse me, next gentleman here, please.
Yeah, I want to speak to Mr. K with regards to about the end of cycle certificates. Although it's not required to send home, some teachers send them home at the end of each cycle and have a kind of a mandatory parent signature on that, so that there is that end of cycle, end of 6-day cycle communication. So the parents will be aware that their child got this, and this kind of score in whether it's the word power, the comprehension, the meaningful sentence, those kinds of things. So there is that opportunity to send that home and make that.
And the cycle is
4 weeks, 6 days.
6 days.
So it would be every 6 days.
okay. So we're sending something home every 6 days.
Every
That-
6 days.
Every 6 day at the end of the cycle, at the end of each story, the cycle, you have the opportunity to send that.
And
end of
that's in
cycle
wings.
certificate. Yeah, in
That's
in
wings. That's wings, and I don't think that necessarily was a mandate. I can't say that every teacher's doing it, but it is a prime opportunity right there. Once our data's in, it's something that Member Center generates for us.
Right.
So it would be a really good thing.
Hold a second, please. Jamila, you can ask your questions to others.
Oh, yes. So I wanted to know, at the middle school level, I saw my daughter, she was, doing vocabulary or whatever. But so she started off at a higher vocabulary level, and now I'm seeing where she's stagnant. This is the same thing I saw with my son, who's now in 1st grade. When he started kindergarten, he was he was reading on the 2nd grade level, and now he's still reading on the 1st grade level again. And it's like it started over, and it's like he's not progressing. The gains that we were supposed to see, me and his teacher sat down. She was like, we thought we would see gains. We're not seeing gains in his reading. It's the same thing. It's actually like my kids are going backwards because they're not being pushed to the next level. They're not given the opportunity to learn a grade level above.
I'm sorry to ask this clarifying. What grade did you say?
So I have one who is in 1st grade, and I have one who is in 8th grade.
The primary grade level, that's what I was.
First
grade. So there was a conscious decision this year, because we were seeing a dip in the 2nd grade scores consistently. So there was really a decision to be made this year, that no matter what level, if they tested out of roots or not, to start at a specific level. Because we saw that there were some deficits with the writing component And we had students who were really good decoders. They were coming out of roots, decoding and reading, and like you said, reading on this level, word reading on that level. But we weren't seeing that the comprehension necessarily were following. So what we're doing is this year starting, so yes, the child is reading on a first grade level, but that's where the teachers have really been coached to ask higher level questions so that we could deepen the material being used as first grade. But we're trying to challenge with the questionings that we are using, so the higher, like Bloom's technology, the higher levels. And then also incorporating more of the writing into roots, so that when we smooth in and we take our assessments at the end of the year, he may end up, or your child may end up this year finishing up roots, having the opportunity to begin a 2-1, depending where the level is. Like, we'll have some first graders in 2-1 this year. They will be reading second grade level, depending where they are. But there is a whole lot of first graders ready to go into level 2 on the fourth quarter. And then, once they're assessed and they have that opportunity, they may move up levels starting as a second grader next year.
So if they're not given the opportunity to start on the level that they're on, if they're starting a level behind, how are they going to move up? Like, I'm not going to learn something unless I'm being taught it. Like, I can't read CAT unless I'm taught to read CAT. Like, you have to be able to give a student the next step. Like, you can't keep them on a step below and expect them to automatically jump to the next step. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand how my students will be able to have the opportunity to move up if they're not given that chance, if they're not given the materials to do that.
You're not gonna put Ms. Thomas on the spot.
Oh, no, Ms. Thomas said do this. That's not what I'm saying.
I'm going to help you out. That is a question for central administration. How can we answer that question? I know, thank you. Can you answer?
We can get back. Would you, I mean, we can give some responses, but I would prefer that we really work with the school. I think Ms. Thomas actually did say that what we're trying to do, and one of the things the Pennsylvania Standards is requiring of us, is that we dig deeper, that we don't spread it out so far, but really take and make sure that the children are understanding at a deeper level than they were before. So that's kind of where we are, making sure that our questions are taking the children to a higher level of discussion, making sure that we are looking at those standards, tearing them apart and understanding them. And so that, and you heard this, sometimes we will do this so that when they get to that next level, they can move much faster.
Okay. Any other, this lady here, please. We're coming to you back.
She's coming back too, Mr. Chairman.
I know, I saw her. I told the lady over here, the leather jacket, you have a question?
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
had a comment. I think that with the implementation of reading ed at the middle school, I feel disconnected from what my son, I have a middle schooler now, what he's learning in terms of reading. Unless I ask him what book you're reading, what skill you're working on, I don't know. When my older sons were coming through the middle school, the book came home. There was homework coming home. Now I have no clue, and I feel like an investigator going, what's going on in reading at school? And it shouldn't be like, I don't know what he's learning, and I don't like that.
Okay, that's for the central administration.
Also, I had another comment.
But, excuse me, let's answer this question first.
Oh, I didn't know anything.
Go ahead.
Again, knowing this year is the first year we've had reading in the middle school. We had English language arts reading. It was not necessarily a reading class. We have added a 60-minute reading class to the middle school schedule, plus they have their language arts also. And so last year when things were coming home, it was different in that it was looking at an ELA perspective and not necessarily a reading perspective. So what I'm hearing, and I agree with that, we can get better with the communication of what we are sending home and telling how we can have parents support us in this effort.
How many years have we had these
All right, come on,
SFA?
excuse me, a second, please. This lady here, please.
So my question or comment was like a combination between the two. Like I do get the data, the team success, the word power, things like that. But my question is, I don't know what they are reading, so I can't really gauge, okay, she got a 60 on this one, what did she get a 60 of? I just got the actual data, but don't know what she got a 60 on, the material itself. So I feel lost, like how can I help her when I don't know what she is learning from?
Point of reference.
You can answer that.
In that, they should have on there the skill that the children is not on there.
Now, and I'm gonna.
Okay, all right, yes,
Can I jump in?
please.
Again, I'm going to say that this forum is informational both for you as parents and community members and for us as teachers and facilitators. And it's a learning experience for all of us because we want to meet the needs of our students. And that's what our goal for all of us in this room is. So I think the feedback that we're getting is something that we really should be bringing to the table with Ms. Harbert, Ms. Rodriguez, and make plans so that we do know this. Like I know a parent call we're starting to send that parent home what skill they're working on and the vocabulary page because it was a conversation that I had with that parent. So maybe we need to look and make sure we're all knowing how to best support our students. So I just want to thank everybody that we're having this opportunity to really improve the communication and the services that we all give to our students.
Oh, there was a person in the
In the
back.
back. Right, she's been waiting a while.
Okay.
I just want
Oh,
clarification.
stand up, please, so we can hear you. Please.
I want clarification on
Excuse
something
me,
you
stand
mentioned
up,
earlier
please.
about the middle school.
Stand up, please, so we can hear you. We can't hear you.
Oh, okay. I just want clarification on something that you mentioned about the middle school earlier as far as training was concerned. Can you clarify for me the SFA people that come in and observe us like once a month or so? They are supposed to be giving us feedback, correct?
That's usually happens one of two ways when we give feedback. And it's really kind of up to the administration. One of the things that we're really trying to do is build the capacity of our instructional facilitators. So they come in and observe, and then they meet with the administrative team, your instructional facilitators. Again, so that they know how to come in and coach and give you feedback. So it may not necessarily come from the consultants themselves, but hopefully that is, if they've been in your classroom, that either Ms. Corsino or Ms. Carey would be coming in and saying, here is the feedback that, and again, our goal is to build the capacity of our instructional facilitators so that they can coach and give you the feedback.
We had a program years ago, America's Choice.
Right.
And when we were observed by the America's Choice team, we were given individual feedback where they would actually sit with us, send us an email or something, and tell us directly what they observed. I don't feel we're getting that with SFA.
Okay.
And I also, in the beginning I would get an email, and that was fine, but ever since then, consequently, nothing's happened. So I feel if I'm doing, I don't even know half the time if I'm doing it right, because I'm not getting the necessary feedback. So I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, and hopefully somebody, Heidi does a great job getting back to us, but I believe it's secondhand information. I really do. And there's been times where she hasn't been in with them observing. So I'd really rather prefer having someone from SFA either email me or let me know one-on-one what's going on, so I don't keep repeating mistakes that I'm doing and I don't even know I'm doing.
And and that's fine, because we sometimes, it's up to the staff how they want to do it in the administration, and if that is a request, we can absolutely make sure that that happens, that if they've seen you, that they would actually schedule some time with you to give you feedback. We're very open to that.
And the other one other thing is, middle school cycle is 8 days.
8 days, thank you.
Right.
That's why I kept saying the week was 6 days.
There's a person in the back, please stand up, please, so we can see you. Thank you.
Yeah, one thing is that my
Speak
kids,
a little louder.
yeah, my kids,
Speak a little
they are
louder,
not able to maybe comprehension, they are not able to articulate some of the words and other things to be able to understand the full comprehension and be able to answer the questions. So I want to know how much and all those things are being taught in the area of comprehension, especially.
Can you tell me where your child goes to school?
8th grade in the
Middle school.
In the middle school? Okay. I would have to refer to their teacher to see what's going on with that, with your, individual child. We do have the comprehension assessments, just like we have, but I'm hoping that you were able to go to the parent-teacher conferences, get some feedback there. I don't know what program your particular child's in, so to give you specific feedback on your child would be very difficult for us at this moment. But we are more than willing, if you want to give us your name and Mr. McKay and tell us, we are more than willing to get back to you and actually have the administration or the teacher reach out.
All right. Thank you. Okay, you can speak now.
I have several questions, but I was told that I have to go back and forth, so ask one at a time, then the public. But, okay, so first I want to go to your page, on page 8, your winged vocabulary instruction. Okay, so meaningful sentences. You have 190 and 80. 190 and 80. We're already starting our kids off at 190 and 80. Nothing underneath. So the issue that I'm having is that students can't score lower than 80. And if they can, I don't see anything that set a table explaining the students that are scoring under that.
Okay, so if you want to look at that rubric, underneath it says not there yet, ask your teacher for another chance. So that is where the child did not have the elements necessary to score an 80. So there's feedback given back to the child. So it gives them an opportunity to correct and to build on. You have to know what you need to build on. So the feedback is given. You can put a 70 in Member Center. So that way it holds the spot and the child is not getting the credit.
But it doesn't say exactly what it is. Like, what is the issue? Like, for instance, if a child scored under a 70, what are those issues? Why is the child scoring a 70? It doesn't say that. It's ask the teacher for another chance. That's not effective. Because
and that's where that moral feedback from the teacher to the student.
It could be different for every child.
Understandable, but the problem that I would have with that is that if I'm a parent and my child scored a 70 and it says ask the teacher for another chance, and the kids aren't getting homework sent home. So whereas I, as a parent, are being able to work on something with my child. So what I'm trying to explain is in the rubric, I can see where it's not effective for our type of children. Because if a child is having issues, for instance, I heard you also use the word drought. Okay, so if a child uses the word drought in the sentence, that doesn't mean that, what if they're spelling it incorrectly? What if they really aren't comprehending it because we're just giving them the word? You know what I'm saying? It's not digging deep enough to explain. When do students learn to decode the word? Another thing is you mentioned Latin, and you mentioned, I believe on page 10, it says right here, lesson 3, teachers and model choosing an important word from the text or class discussion, exploring it in a word-powered journal entry. Teachers use a think aloud and word map to model how students can explore words related through related words, second and third meanings, connotations of the word, synonyms, antonyms, Greek/Latin roots, etc. But if you go back here to page 8 and it says root vocabulary assessment, it doesn't mention Latin, it doesn't mention Greek, none of that is mentioned.
I believe what you're looking at on page 8 is the WINGS program. So then you move into EDGE, and the information, that's the word study that's in EDGE.
Okay, but it doesn't say
So that's
that.
where we're building upon and going deeper as the children develop and are moving along in their school career.
Okay, but it doesn't even say, like, look at the WINGS vocabulary assessment. I mean, it's very small, but it doesn't show. Like, my issue is that it doesn't show how our kids are learning effectively off of this. I mean, WINGS vocabulary, active instruction, 2-minute edit. You have 2 minutes. What goes on in that 2-minute edit? Vocabulary, procedures, routines. What kind of routines? Meaningful sentences. Okay, if a child can write a sentence, and just because they can write it, that doesn't mean. And what if the spelling is incorrect? How do we address that?
This part of the presentation was for the vocabulary, the development of the oral vocabulary, not necessarily the spelling part. That's going to be
But
a whole
vocabulary,
nother.
but vocabulary and spelling doesn't go hand in hand?
There's
No, I'm
different
asking.
levels
I'm asking.
and different uses for vocabulary.
Yeah.
Vocabulary has many different,
I have, I know we got.
I wasn't finished. I wasn't finished, but, okay.
Got one more minute.
No, it's okay. Go
All
ahead.
right, thank you. So I may be in agreement with you. My concern is, like you said, the feedback, with the parents, the data that was raised, how you can move the student, if the student is below, or if the student is moving ahead, how effectively you do it. As I said before, when I was a classroom teacher, I taught 6th grade, I'm concerned that my parents want to see from me 20 vocabulary words. They want to see definitions. They want to see sentences. They want to see the students write the word in alphabetical order. They want to see the students write. That may be old-fashioned, but it worked. And when I mentioned at the very beginning about private and parochial schools, I'm not putting you on the spot, this I hope you understand. But this is something that we have to decide from the administration and the school board. I want our children to be taught what's being taught at the parochial and private schools if they're going to be able to compete. I'm not saying this is not a good program. It does have its pluses and also has its minuses. I'm aware of it. When you walk into a classroom, I didn't particularly hear that. When you walk into a classroom, they're supposed to identify when a parent comes in, they can see that 80% of the students are on level or not. They can see that the students understand the parts of speech, the phonetic spelling, identifying words, a noun, verb, and adverb. This is what they're doing in parochial and private school. If our students are not getting the same information and quality is not being taught, we're falling behind. Our students have to compete on a worldwide basis, or at least in the United States with the SAT and ACT. Many universities use that. I'm not saying that this is not a good tool. I know it's very good in kindergarten. It's very good. Ms. Fitty was talking about in pre-K. For the school where I work, we had pre-K, and it was excellent for those two people. However, we did send information home that the parents, we didn't wait 6 weeks. We did send information home. The parents was invited in the classroom to see. It's on the wall. It's also displayed out in the school. What every teacher is doing. And so when I start taking my tour, I hope I'll be able to see that. That's what I'm going to be looking for. I'm looking for a theme in the classroom. I'm going to be looking for a word wall, the vocabulary words they see every day. And then we can see that when we have bright students, I believe in breaking students down to homogeneous grouping. Not the top, the middle, and those who need to improve. And that's what we did. It was taught quarterly. But once quarterly, we moved the students who may have been in the bottom group, some will go to the top group. But what I hear is they stuck, and then they're not making progress. It's going to lead to some of these problems. So I would like, if we can compromise, I'm still going to really push for this, that we start sending vocabulary 20 words home. And same type of test you see in public and parochial school. And one thing that I do, and also I visit a lot of schools, so I know what's being taught. I visit charter schools. I know what's being taught. I mean, the good ones. So we have to compete. And I think as we look at what we're doing here, a combination of what we need to do, vocabulary words, understanding the language arts, you can see the success rate. And then you can see when the parent walk in, their student grades is on the wall. When I come around, I want to see that. I'm not saying you, I'm talking about the whole school district. So that's what we're going to do. Yes.
There was a question in the back about Roots growth. I'm not sure who was it. Somebody about their first grader who is at a higher level. The goal for Roots is 2 levels of growth a quarter. So I mean a marking period. Well, a quarter. And so the teacher and the instructional coach, we literally sit down. We talk about that student. If they're 1.6. We want to make sure they're 1.8 the next time, at the end of the next marking period. So, you know, what I did with my first grade teacher this last quarter is we looked at the words they had to know between 1.6 and 1.8, even if the story was a 1.5, because we're trying to make sure they get the necessary skills, because whether they can word read doesn't necessarily mean that they're comprehending what they're reading, because they may not have all the oral vocabulary. But from that 1.6 to 1.8, because that's where we want them to be the next quarter, there's all sight words in there, and there's, you know, other things in there that we were sending home because we want to slow down to move faster, but all of that material, those sight words, those word lists that were in there for that next bump that we wanted them to get, you know, that's a purposeful planning. So if, you know, you don't know if that's happening everywhere, that purposeful planning is what needs to happen. And we did see, I mean, her goal was, you know, whatever her, I can't remember the exact number, but that her kids will move 2 levels of growth. I mean, we had kids moving 4 levels of growth. Because if your child's 1.6 and we're teaching 1.5, we're thinking, well, how are they going to get to 1.8? Because we're not teaching it. But we need to make sure they're getting their foundation comprehension skills and oral language, but hit them up, you know, with those higher skills and send it home so the parents can see it. I have a 6th grade teacher here that their student certificate goes home every cycle and comes back with the signature, and notes can go on that certificate where parents can ask questions. He sends home vocabulary, and the kids are writing meaningful sentences at home, which is, you know, they're tweaking the system a little bit, but it's working in their room because his kids are moving. Those words are going home, but that's purposeful planning that's happening there in his room.
Excuse me.
We get a chance.
I need to hear.
But I was done.
I'm listening. I'm just trying to listen to you because I'm hearing impaired, so I need to look at you and read your lips plus hear.
So what I'm getting at is, you know, he is seeing, like, he's sending his vocabulary words home, and the kids are writing meaningful sentences at home. They're coming in and they're taking apart those meaningful sentences. That's the way he's doing within that instructional framework, same framework that it's being used, but he's tweaking it for the kids in his room. And, you know, I guess conversations that you're having with your parents and students. So
my question was that it seems like you have, it's working for some teachers, and then you have some that it's not, right? And then you have teachers that have, like you said, he's changed it to work in his classroom. And then you have a teacher in the back that's basically saying she's not really knowing if she's teaching it effectively and correctly. I guess I should be talking to Jane when I say this. The biggest problem I hear is inconsistency.
Yeah.
You know, so if we, if it's not consistent, right, overall, then don't you think we should be having regular meetings and things like that to just not also our instructional facilitators, also with our regular teachers as well, are not instructional facilitators, to make sure that, you know, maybe what works for their classroom is effective. You know, the only way to bring this program to light is to make sure that we're implementing it effectively, and it just seems like we're just running with it instead of setting a, like you said, preparing and planning. You know, maybe we need to call all of our teachers together and make sure that it's being effectively done, because it's just, it's really, really inconsistent that you're just seeing it.
I'm shaking my head, yes, the answer's, I'm just gonna amen that, yes, and that we have to, you know, you've got teachers who are going to go beyond. You know, there's what we ask them to do, and then you're gonna have teachers like Mr. Ross, who's gonna go beyond. And I praise him for that. We can bring that level that we ask that for everyone. And there is a level of expectation that we should be having things sent home and people doing that. We do need to, if we look at the middle school, remember they're only 16 weeks into implementation, and sometimes it takes more than 16 weeks. Some of these schools, Mr. Ross, you've been doing it how long? 5 years?
Yeah, so that's our goal.
Yeah, okay, so in some schools, 5 years. So we have to continue supporting our teachers, we have to continue giving them the professional development. We have to, and you're going to hear a little bit in a few minutes from Mr. McKay about our curriculum frameworks and what our expectations are that we've laid out at our elementary levels. We're not there at the middle school. He has teams who are working. The ELA team is working so that we can get to those same curriculum frameworks. But I want you, it takes time. And remember, this is, I will keep reminding you, this is our first year to have a director of curriculum. I was a director of schools, it was not curriculum. So it's a matter of a process that we are going through. And every day, we're working hard to get there and making sure that people are where we need to be. And you're going to hear us in a little bit talk about continuous improvement, because we can always get better.
All right, this is right, and this.
Hi, good evening. I just wanted to make a quick comment. Do we have any parents of students in the elementary school present tonight?
Yes.
Yes, we are. Okay, and I just want to share something with you that may be helpful, and I was thinking about your baby in first grade. I'm a volunteer in the community, but one point that was helpful for me is with the reading program, when the young people get their report cards that they bring home, you can ask their teacher, as you partner with their teacher, if they can give you this printout. And the printout, of course, will list their Lexile level with data and assessment, and it can show, their particular Lexile level. But what I find that's helpful for me to bring the level up of students I'm working with is they'll give you the instructional level with the Lexile, and then they'll give you, of course, a level for them to work independently. But if you take that Lexile range for your hearing capacity, that will help you, as I know you're trying to increase the vocabulary and the usage and the oral language of your children. So that may be something, if you're not getting it already, I'm sure they won't mind just asking for that printout, because it's really helpful with when you're trying to select and purposefully plan that you're working at home.
Some of us sent our kids to school reading and above level.
Sure.
And so they're
Absolutely.
stagnant now. So that's why we're here questioning the program.
Yeah,
She
and the
is,
point
she has a GIEP.
the point that I was making was for parents who may be working with students in the elementary level, that particular printout, because I don't know if everyone is aware of that, but that will give you ranges that can help you at home. Because very often as parents at home and volunteers in the community, we're saying, where can we start to help them to move up? And that was the point that I was making. Yes.
Student reading report.
Yes, the student reading report. Thank you for the name of it.
Go ahead.
I guess we already talked about it, but my concern again is with the consistency. I know we have consistency now regarding a curriculum from what I'm told, but I'm not understanding how it's implemented by teachers, like additional homework outside, because my concern has always been with the lack of vocabulary and lack of grammar. And I was speaking to a fourth grade teacher at a different school, and they were talking about how much vocabulary and grammar and writing that their child is getting for homework. And I was like, oh, really? Because my son barely gets anything. Now here we are 3 months away from 5th grade, and he's just getting homework on writing more advanced thinking, answering questions, and writing a paragraph of 3 sentences. And he's getting ready to go into the 5th grade. So I want to know why, if we have consistency in the curriculum, why at one school a teacher is doing one thing, and at a different school, they're not being taught that. And just to piggyback off of, I'm not sure what this gentleman's, Mr. Ross' name is here, but if we can just put into place, we're saying some teachers go above, but we're behind. So what he's doing is not above. It's what we need to do to get our children to where they should be. So can we put something in place? And I ask you right now, what is the plan to put something in place so that all teachers are Mr. Ross and not some teachers? And that's a lot of questions. But the big concern is the consistency, and also how can we get all of our teachers, because he's not, you probably are going above, but he's doing what we need to do to get to where we should be.
I understand.
All I can say is that, we can work. I mean, and again, I think Ms. Thomas said it, this, Mr. McKay, as you see, is making notes up here. This is so valuable to us to get this input, and again, I know that we've not always asked for that, but we're here and we're open and we're listening and wanting to say, how can we take what we're doing and improve it? So, thank you.
I know Ms. Thompson. All right, Ms. Ambrose, can't see you.
I think one thing though that we have to bring to light and be very clear about are the change in expectations. And so when we compare, and Mr. Wright, I'll argue with you outside of here, but when we compare our children to public and parochial schools, what are the expectations don't come through guidelines from Pennsylvania. And we're finding more and more is that they are adopting Pennsylvania standards. So our curriculum truly are not the resources that we purchased. It is the Pennsylvania core standards. So when we're teaching reading, math, writing, science, social studies, that is the Bible for what we should be teaching. So the playing field should not only be equalized across William Penn, it's equalized in the state of Pennsylvania. Now the thing is there are 50 million roads to get to that proficient and advanced level. So we're talking about vocabulary, and in the grand scheme of things, it's a very small part. But the one thing is to also not get hyper-focused on that and lose focus on the fact that we're talking about going this broad and trying to make growth in all of these areas, and which things are going to get us the most leverage first to make sure that we're able to catch up and continue to catch up. Because we can do something with 20 vocabulary words, but is it going to give us the kind of growth we need to get when we talk about children comprehending and writing at a deep level? No research really supports that. No research really supports either that kids who go to private and parochial schools are achieving better. And there's only one indicator out there that tests that. That's the NAEP. NAEP says that kids who go to public school are faring quite well. So we just want to say that.
You're right, we can debate outside. All right. She mentioned this that.
In the back.
Excuse me, stand up, we can't see you.
We used to have collaboration time, going back to consistency in the classrooms. In the middle school, we would have collaboration time every morning, and that was taken away from us this year due to the scheduling. And it has really, really been detrimental, especially with trying to implement all of these new initiatives. So I am begging next year that we do something with the schedule so that the teachers can collaborate, talk about things, see what's going on in each other's classroom, because it really is detrimental to our kids and to the teachers.
I mean, I'm speaking for two parents here, so.
Yeah.
And me. I asked this question.
The one thing that I was going to say is that we don't have a standard. It's like we don't have a standard. Like Mr. Ross, okay, so Mr. Ross, we just said that, and it goes to what your point of saying is that he's going above and beyond, we said. But what is standard? What should our teachers be doing? And it seems like that they're kind of like asking this, but nobody, like, it's not being answered. What is, because we're going to look at what Mr. Ross is doing, and like I said, Mr. Ross, you probably are going above and beyond. I'm not sure. It's hard for me to say that because I don't have a reference. I don't have a, you know what I'm saying? I don't know what our teachers,
what's the norm?
What is the norm? Exactly. So how are we supposed to?
And then are you asking about homework, or are you asking about what it is that we're teaching in the classroom? Because in the classroom, it is the standards. We have the standards that we are supposed to be teaching, and Mr. McKay, when we get to that, eventually we'll get to that tonight, has that for you to see, our standards. Now, homework, you know, we can come up with what our expectations are. We do have it for reading, in that the children are to read 20 minutes a night and do the read and respond. That is something that is standard across the elementary level.
Is that happening?
That's what I'm saying.
Is it happening? Okay, so we can talk about the data, because we do collect that data on a regular basis, and it varies from school to school, it varies from classroom to classroom, it varies from grade level to grade level. And again, that goes back to the teacher and how much, you know, they are really influencing. And I know Marie's anxious to share the data. Go ahead.
Well, sit down.
That's okay. For read and respond, that's normalized. It is a norm, but that's 20 minutes and read and respond. So we collect data within, again, I'm sorry that I am not versed enough in EDGE, but at least in elementary school, it is collected. So we keep track of our data. We know where our hot spot at Evans is. We know actually down to the 20 students that are at a specific reading level that have the lowest read and respond rate. So that is the lowest group of completing their homework for reading. We already know that reading is going to improve the reading ability. The more you read, I don't show up on game day for a game, I have to get my practice. Same concepts. So we want our committees all involved. So we have our parenting committee. Came up with we have volunteers that are going to come in. If we're not getting it at home for various reasons, what can we do? Because the important thing is the children get the practice. So we have to remember that, as Ms. Ambrose alluded to, the standards is what we need to do. That's what our goal, that's our norm for everyone. How we get there may look different. Our reading program is a program that we use because we're not teaching the program, we're teaching our children. We're teaching our children to meet the standards. So we have to remember the program is a vehicle. We have a lot of data, thank goodness we do, because now we know exactly who needs the support. So I think it's important that we remember that we can say who's doing homework, at least for reading, because it's normalized and the data is collected. So it's a point to look at, because again, to focus on one thing could kind of hold us back.
All right, we're going to let Ms. Thomas, she's tired, she can have a seat. Let's give her a round of applause, please. And maybe you can answer the question at the end. Let's give her a round of applause. You need to sit down. I have a question. I didn't want her to stand up when I asked my question. Standards are important. When I come around and I take my tour, there should be on the wall somewhere standards in each curriculum framework. It should be. I should be able to look and say reading, what the standard for reading, what the standard for vocabulary. I should be able to see that. It was like that at the school where I taught. I should walk in and my philosophy that I believe in, like I said, I believe this program is working on the lower level. If it's not working in middle school or beyond the 4th and 5th grade, then we need to look at another program. We should not be married to something that may not be working in the upper grades. If it's working in the lower grades, we should keep it. So I would like, Jane, at the end of the year, since Ms. Ambrose is here, if we got the data that can say that it's working in the upper grade, then we stay with it. But the data said that it's not working, we need to look at something else. Because this is how our children get far behind. So I want to thank you, because we need to bring Mr. McKay. Mr. McKay, you next.
Okay.
I have a question. So what current reading program or curriculum are we offering, are you guys offering the gifted students?
So oftentimes the gifted student.
Go ahead.
Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Oftentimes the gifted students are in classes that are above their grade level. So if the child's in 5th grade or 4th grade, they're usually assigned to a class that is above their grade level if they qualify for it based on their data. We know that giftedness doesn't mean all A's. We know that giftedness is looking at things in a different way. So the gifted program, you'll see shortly, is something that's going to be reviewed to see what it is we're doing and see what improvements we can make going forward. Because as Ms. Harvard said, you can always make improvements. We're never, oh, we're at the top of our game, we're great, and we don't have to do anything. Because until all children are at 100%, we're really not there. So.
Okay, Mr. Carey, are we starting with grammar and instruction?
Yes.
Hold on, we're going to grammar and instruction.
Yeah, I know, but that's the issue. This is still in the gifted situation. That's the issue that I had with my daughter being gifted. And she is gifted, and she is in the classroom, even though she's in a 5.2, she was already 2 years above before. She was already 2 years above before, and all her testing showed that. I sit at the library with Krista, and I sit at the library with my child, her and the rest of her friends that are 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade reading levels, and they're all sitting in a 5th grade class. So that's my question. That's my issue about it, because that's what we were promised when we had gotten this program. So
what I will do is I will look at Krista's work. I'll get back to you. I promise you I will.
Miss, before you ask your question, here where we are. It's 8 o'clock. How long, I need to know, show of hands, how long are we planning to stay here?
$5,000 worth, because that's how much my taxes are.
I'll say to stay here in this room right now.
$5,000 worth.
All right, is everybody, is it the next half hour, the next hour? Because we just have Mr. K.
I'm sorry, I thought
All
this
right.
was a forum where we could ask questions and.
We are asking questions.
Okay, so I have another question.
Well, I'm saying, but we need to move on to find out, I'm trying to find out how long everybody wants to stay. Because some people are beginning to get up and start leaving.
But we can always continue it because we know that this was definitely going to be something that people were going to ask a lot about. We knew that we had some questions. So what I would say is that if these are the points that we have to hit, and if you have a time limit, then maybe you can extend it to the next education meeting and cover the other things. But it's really important to hear.
Yeah, we can do that, but the question I'm asking, how long everyone want to stay at 8:30 or the 9 o'clock? I need to know that.
When was it scheduled to end?
8.
And it's 5 past.
I just want to ask one question.
I know, that's why I said that we should just extend it to.
No, we're supposed to end at 8.
Let's see where we're at 8:30, and then.
What I'm saying, 8:30, everybody want to end at 8:30 or 9 o'clock? Because I know everybody has a lot of questions, so do I. But I need to know, again, you want to stay to 8:30 or 9 o'clock? By show of hands, how many want to stay to 8:30?
Can we just stay until everyone asks their questions and it's all resolved?
No, we need a time.
Robbie said go to 8:30.
No, I need a show of hands. How many want to stay to 8:30?
We should definitely cut it by 9, like we should not go past 9 o'clock. That's my.
All right, just go, yeah, that's all good. Show of hands want to stay to 8:30. All right.
And Mr. Wright, let Mr. McKay go to 8:30, and then we answer questions for another half hour. How about we do that?
Can I just make a suggestion?
No, but we got some other areas to address.
From those to the next.
So a possible solution, so that, as Mr. Wright said, we're not here burning the midnight oil, is we could be having this great open forum and dialogue literally half the night. And a lot of us got up mighty early this morning. So what I might suggest, at least to get some of the questions taken care of that are either very personal to your particular situation or will require me and Ms. Harvard to look into the matter, you want to write it down for me and some way to contact you. Your email, your phone, some way that I can get back to you within a few days after I have a chance to do it. I still want to make sure that your question is heard, but as you said, ma'am, 9 o'clock, no matter kind of where we are, we need to wrap things up.
Right.
And we could keep going and going. So I will start these up here, and if you would like to take that option, please do so. Just please make sure that you have some way for me to get a hold of you, because if I don't have a way to contact, that puts me at a really bad disadvantage. When I was in the classroom, I could look at the paper and say, I know who wrote this question. But I can't do that tonight. So I really need, like I said, either an email, a home phone, a cell phone, some way to get to you. In the event that, as I'm wrapping up, you have to leave because you need to get home, the family, children, etc. And if you would just kindly, if you need to do that, if you would just kindly put them over here on your way out, I will take them home with me. I'll start sorting them first thing in the morning. There may be some very quick, oh yes, absolutely, quick call. There may be one that I have to look into and investigate. Like I told Ms. Lewis, let me look into Krista's situation. That's going to take me more than a minute. So that way we can keep it going, if that's all right with you, Mr. Wright?
Yes, but I'm saying that we're going to stay to 8:30, 9 o'clock. I can stay to 9, but I just need a time.
9.
Everybody can stay to 9? Okay, at 9 we end it.
Right.
All right, continue.
Can I ask my question now, Mr. McKay?
Yeah.
Ma'am?
Can I ask my question now?
Sir.
So, what are we said that, the EDGE program is new at the middle school.
Yes, ma'am.
So what are we doing to ramp up those students who are in 8th grade, like my daughter, who will be going on to 9th grade? What are we doing for them in high school? Are we preparing or making strategic plans for those students that we know are already starting off behind the back, being that they didn't have a reading and writing program previously?
So, new to the middle school and to 9th grade this year, and to some elementaries, we're getting that underway. We now have a reading intervention program that we use based on student data from the reading inventory, children who are not where we want them to be. Schools and facilitators are looking at the reading inventory data each quarter as it comes in. We are looking to see if that child is appropriate for the reading intervention. It's called Read 180. It is brand new to the district this year. I mean brand new to the district this year. This is the first time in a very long time that we have had an intervention for the middle and high school. So if you would like to write that question down, I will check out scores and get back to you. I promise.
So the reading intervention program, is this in addition to what they will be learning, like they will be taken out of their regular English class in 9th grade? No?
Everybody will still have everything that they need for their credits, but there will also be this additional intervention time. Dr. Lee's working on several ways that we're implementing it so that we can make sure that the kids who need that additional support as in 8th grade or 9th grade, as they're getting there, get that additional support before they move on to 10th and 12th grade.
So how does this look on their transcripts when they're applying for colleges?
That I don't know yet. It's because it is an intervention class. Put that on your card. I will look into that and see what I can tell you. Promise.
Ms. Smith, do you have something?
I do. It is curriculum related, but I'm speaking for the high school, so I'm going to make it really fast. In the course selection guide, there's a void. Currently, world literature honors is not offered. It hasn't been page 20.
Okay.
And it hasn't been offered in years. My son graduated June 2016, and it wasn't offered throughout his high school years, and that to me is a definite deficit. So I want to petition the board to really, excuse me, speak to Dr. Lee, Ms. Herbert, really to implement that, because we're not just all one-track learners. You either are academic, college prep, or AP. I spoke to the AP coordinator for literature, Mr. Quarterman, and he said basically they don't offer it. He's one man. He shouldn't have say-so over hundreds of students, their opportunities. He says they offer AP but not honors so that more students will take AP. To me, that's a slap in the face.
So, but it's in the course selection now.
It is not.
I think, is that not one we just approved?
It is not, because I spoke to Mrs. Brown, who's the director of the guidance department, about this. I've been having an ongoing dialogue. It is not offered. So I believe as a parent, it is early enough, this is February, that can be added into the course selection offers, which is taking place now for next year.
That's right.
So without having more to say, I think that this is totally in line with having them be college career ready, that you all have mentioned, being on par to, the rest of the elite schools, whatever, all the jargon. So I definitely wanted to say that quick and fast.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We will certainly look into that.
World literature.
Okay, so, we're, yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Tim, one question. How long Success for All been in the district? 6 years?
6 years.
And has it worked prior? And is it working now?
The data says that our children are making growth, and I shared.
Well, what I'm trying to get at, if he has Success for All, 6 years, and we're not progressing, then you need to tweak it. I also want to know that we have the material to teach to read the 180?
Yes, we have that
Yes.
materials.
You have that material?
Yes, ma'am.
The reason why I'm asking a lot of some of the questions, I viewed 6 different schools last week, grade schools, middle school, high school. And in some schools where you have maybe 8 kids in the Act 180 class, there was 2 kids acting abruptly and the rest of the kids weren't getting it. And that's a lot of our issues. And I feel our teachers, and I don't know you, I don't know where do you teach at?
Colin,
Colin, I didn't make it there that day, I'm sorry.
please come up.
I hear a lot of good things about you, but I do support all the other teachers in our district who are doing an awesome job too. Our one biggest problem is, as I always said, and Rafi Cave, you always quote me on this, you need 3 elements. You need a child that wants to learn, the teacher's involved, and the teacher loves the job, and the parent being involved. If you don't have them 3 elements, anything you put in front of that child is going down. You have to be very involved. And I see you parents are. And I feel you, because I don't know why your child was so ahead at one point, now he's back. We're not supposed to be moving back, supposed to be moving forward.
Right.
Now, I had a child, not me. There was a kid in school through all his life, was AT class, accelerated class, went to downtown. He couldn't make par. Well, why? I didn't understand it. Are we teaching the same thing here as we're teaching in other districts so we can compare ourselves with the other districts nearby?
We're using the standards, Mrs.
And they're
Fish.
state standards.
State standards, Pennsylvania Common Core state standards. And that is, as Ms. Ambrose said earlier, that's really our curriculum. That's what we should be following. There's different vehicles to get us there. And, please listen to what I'm saying. We are working very hard. And you're going to see this in a few minutes if we get to the curriculum framework. We may have to bring this over so that how we have made it more consistent across the district, so that if you're in 3rd grade, here's what should be taught, this is how it should be assessed, here are the things, and the teachers, I have to tell you, our teachers worked hard on this. Our elementary teachers came together, worked on these curriculum frameworks over the summer, during the school year. We had summit days where the teachers could come in and review it together. And I give all that credit to Mr. McKay to bringing that together.
Thank you. It was really the staff. I just sort of guided the conversations. Okay. Grammar. Grammar actually goes right along with what Mr. Wright was talking about earlier with vocabulary. We have 2 programs in the district. One is the main program. The second program is a support program based on information that was brought to me at the end of last school year. The main program that the district uses for writing is called Write Steps. And every child has this from grades 1 through 5. And it is part of the ELA curriculum. And as you can see, it is broken down by days. I'm sorry the focus isn't so good, but here it also talks about exactly what is covered each day, whether it's grammar, whether it's writing, whether it's compound words, whether it's using dialogue, whether it's synonyms or antonyms, adjectives or adverbs. So we started this last year because prior to that we didn't have something that was really strong and that we liked. And while there was a bit of writing going on, we were looking for consistency to make sure no matter which building your child was attending, they were having the same experiences. So we moved in this direction last year. Also, we have here these two columns in different ways talk about the reading and writing standards that are also connected to each day's grammar and writing lesson. School board directors, you have a sample of one grade level here, if you'd like to be thumbing through it while I'm talking. That shows the teacher what writing they have to do, the videos that are embedded, and the activities that go along with it. Because it was so thick, and because there are enough trees already down for some curriculum projects, I only made copies for the school board directors, but if anybody would like to review it at their child's level, again, put your name on the card, give me your contact information, I will be happy to get back to you. So as Ms. Harbert had said, we've been working on our curriculum frameworks through last spring. I see a lot of people who helped really a lot work on these curriculum frameworks sitting here in the audience this evening, and I really appreciate all the work you put into it, and we continue to put into it. But they said to me in May, when we were having our meeting towards the end of May, you know, a lot of us like this, but Tim, there's really not enough grammar instruction. A lot of grade levels have decent writing prompts, but there are two things missing. One, we think we need to write more about certain topics and in certain genre. And two, because we haven't had strong grammar for a while, we really need something that is very directly teaching the grammar. So this was May. School starts in September. That is not a big window. So I talked to Ms. Harbert and I said, we have to have something else to support this going into the beginning of the school year. But it is really, actually, it may not seem like it, but educationally, May to August is a very short amount of time. I said, we don't have time to look at books and materials, but we have to get something in for staff. So our solution for this year was to add simply a support piece, knowing that it is not a curriculum, but it is a support piece to the main curriculum, which is Right Steps. And each grade level has one of these packages as well. And if you look through it, it does give direct instruction in grammar. It goes month by month. It has a link to the Common Core standards. And it is not perfect, but it is a step towards where we want to go. So not only do we have the core curriculum with the right steps and all of the writing that is required in the standards, but we also have this additional support for grammar, which gives much more direct instruction in grammar than the right steps does. When I met with all the teachers at various grade levels this year, I said, are we good? And they said, we're better. I said, okay, better's good. You know, if you said worse off, then I would be concerned. We constantly look and tweak and refine and revise. One thing that we know about writing curriculum is that it is a living document. It is never completely done. We can always make it better. We can always make it stronger. We can always try to make sure that every single learner in the classroom is getting what she or he needs. So this is kind of where we are right now with the grammar at the elementary level. There is an ELA period every day for the teachers that is separate and apart from the SFA block. And during that time, they do grammar instruction and writing instruction. And part of the writing instruction would include vocabulary.
This is our first unit.
Yes, this is our first year doing that. And again, it was not purchased to be the end-all and be-all, but because hearing this feedback at the end of May, there wasn't time to get a committee of teachers together to look at anything else. So I said, this will take us at least into the year so we can have some additional grammar, because they said to me during our team meetings, the kids just don't know what a noun is.
So you tried to address it?
So we try to address it by giving, if you look at some of those, I mean, it is direct instruction. There is no guessing as to what an adverb is.
Okay.
So that was purchased for grades 1 to 5, actually 1 to 6. And then beyond that, there were additional supports purchased for 6th grade because their writing the writing that they are tested on for PSSA is at a much higher level than the 5th grade is. Go from expressing an opinion in 5th grade to writing an argument, and that's a big leap. That's a huge leap, because in an opinion, you're expressing, I think school should run from 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. period done, and you explain why. But in an argumentative essay, you have your point, and then you have to discuss the counterpoint as well. So we do have materials that we're working through. Are they exactly what we want? No. But that's part of the discussion this spring. Having vendors come in and us having the time as 6th grade teachers to look at materials and say, okay folks, what do we want? Because again, this year's a step, and as long as we keep stepping up, I'm good. It's when we just stagnate and we don't make progress that I feel that's a real problem. So we're moving in the direction we want to be to the level we want to be at. So, but that is our answer. That was my answer to staff requests for this year, to get something else just besides the right steps, because they said the grammar wasn't directly instructed enough. Okay, so that's the state of the elementary. When we had, and I'm skipping ahead just a bit, but when we had our curriculum meetings, which I'll explain to you in just a moment, we clearly defined what should be taught each quarter. We clearly defined this quarter we're focusing on narrative, this quarter we're focusing on opinion, this quarter we're focusing on informational writing or research. And all of the teachers have this information. Principals were very, very helpful in freeing up their staff so that they could come over and spend either 1 or, in some cases, 2 days back to back with me till we had all of this hammered out. At the middle school, since the writing and grammar class is now separated out from reading block, what we are in the process of doing is we have ELA focus group of teachers. In fact, I was with them last night for about 2 hours. We do 2 hours about every other week after 3:30. And we are working on writing a new ELA curriculum for 2017-2018. So what are we doing this year? This year what we're doing is we are using what was previously in place, as well as creating our pacing calendar to make sure that we're all covering essential skills, making sure students are ready for PSSA testing in April, making sure the students have opportunities to do all the different types of writing, have a vocabulary study with what the materials are that they have at this time, as well as looking at the standards, what's going to be expected, what does the eligible content say. When the children sit down and are tested, what are they going to have to do? Because as a district, part of my job, along with whatever else Ms. Harvard has me do, part of my job is making sure that we are working towards a goal. And that's why we are working on these curriculum frameworks, because if we don't know where we're going, we don't know how we're going to get there. And we'll just be all over the place. And I heard Ms. Miller and several other people talk about consistency. And because I am a linear thinker, I have to have that. Which is not to take away the art of teaching from teachers, but we need to make sure that whether you are an Evans or Alden, Ardmore or Colwyn, you are having the same opportunities for that exposure. So that is the purpose of this, working through the curriculum frameworks. So we will be ready with the new writing curriculum for the entire year at the beginning of next school year. It is a work in progress that we are working through this year, and the teachers, the ELA teachers have been really, really helpful in making sure this gets together and is done well. Because I don't want to just hand it to them and say, here, this is what I think you should do. Our teachers are the ones in the front lines, and they know where we can go, how quickly we can go, and where we need to spend additional time. So our elementary curriculum frameworks, this is something that we just worked through midway through this year. So every classroom teacher has a pacing curriculum framework for all of the core subjects. And let me explain what this is. For the area of math, for the third quarter, if you are in grade 5, these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 areas will be graded on your child's report card. Those are competencies based on the PA state standards. So several people have asked a couple of times, are we following the state standards? Yes. As Ms. Harbert said, vehicles to get there are entirely different depending on where you are. So these are the areas, based on the pacing of the chapters that the teachers felt we could get through doing during quarter 3, making sure that as much of the tested material will be addressed and tested standards will be addressed prior to PSSA. Along with the competencies, we then have which assessments. So all teachers for all grade levels now have this as well to follow. So Chapter 9, Chapter 11, 13, and 14 are the main tests. Here are the quizzes from the extra practice book, which is something that all the teachers have. And even within eSchool, how to grade the homework. Moving towards consistency. That's what we're attempting to do here. So, we have which competency areas for the core subjects. We also have which assessments we're using. What the goal is to come back and have one more day with each grade level of teacher in May to review what we've written, make sure that it's what we want it to be and that it works. So that over the summer, one of the things that I can do is make sure that all of the grade level packages, if you will, look exactly the same. And then all teachers will know from the minute they hit the door, each quarter, what it is they're having to grade, what assessments they're having to give, and what chapters have to be covered in the test. And every grade level so far has been able to do this, except kindergarten. I had to cancel that one. It will be coming back. I see you back there. It's coming. I have not forgotten. I promise. I don't want hate mail, okay? But I will come to kindergarten, and we will get this done. This is the first time in a long time in Birmingham that we've had this. I'm just being very honest.
Thanks for being honest.
But we're getting there. So it's a work in progress. Some districts take multiple years to put this together. Our staff was able to put this together in about 8 months for all the subject areas, which is no small feat. I don't like flying and building the plane simultaneously. At the same time, we are not in a position to say, oh, everyone just take a year off. As soon as we get it all written, we'll be back and we're online ready for you. We can't do that, obviously. So, principals provided me with the staff. Teachers came armed with their books, their knowledge, that we're ready to go. We were in this room, we closed the door, we had charts all over the place, and they really cranked it out and said, this is working well, this is not working well, this is great, and this is terrible. They were very honest, and I said to them, please don't tell me, just what you think I need to hear. If it's terrible, we need to fix it, let's fix it. Or at least let me put it on the radar so that we can fix it if we can't do it right now today. So this is the math. The other one I wanted to show you was this is the ELA, which is the grammar and the writing. These are the 4 standards that are addressed for the 3rd quarter for 5th grade. The tests are 2 formal written opinion pieces, 4 grammar quizzes, 3 PSSA writing prompts, and 1 classroom and homework grade. That was what the 5th grade decided to do for 3rd quarter. So that when your child's report card comes home in 5th grade, and there is an English writing grade, this is what it is based on. After we're sure of where we want to go, hopefully for next year, parents will have this information as well, as a roadmap. These are what you can expect to be graded this quarter. This is what the teacher's basing it on. More information, more collaboration, hopefully much more success. In addition to that, we're also looking at additional close reading and text-dependent analysis projects and prompts. Ms. Rodriguez, our SFA person, our SFA coach, and I have been working on this to make sure that we get this out to teachers. Again, it's a work in progress. Again, we are moving this forward. Again, teachers are taking their time after school to get this done. But we needed to start somewhere, and I said to her, we can't wait any longer, so let's start with these and let's then pull it into the district and do it locally. But again, writing all that up, finding appropriate grade level articles, writing good solid questions, that doesn't happen in about 10 minutes. But she is working with people on it and has been for about 2 months. She reports to me every couple of weeks, this is how far we've gotten, this is how far we still have to go. So that is, for the sake of time, I was really trying to compact the grammar and the writing and where we're going with study skills and additional literacy into about 20 minutes. Questions?
I just have 2 questions.
Yes, ma'am.
One question is that since we don't, we're working on with data for the elementary level, like there are certain questions that we really don't have answers to because we have to see how it's working. Some things like, for instance, the what was that? The program she was the Wings and different programs where this is their first year. So my question as to you as the curriculum director is that, can we not bring anything else over into the middle school right now until we get the elementary straightened out with regard to all of these new things that we're bringing in, to be effective? Like, we don't really know at this time how effective all of these pieces of SFA is for every single elementary school. As we see, there's inconsistency. So my question is that why are we moving on to bringing this up to the middle school when we really, really don't know how effective it has worked in our elementary schools all around total? That's my first question.
Okay. So what we know, what we know is that the data that came back from the state in English language arts on the PSSA test was not what we wanted to see. And that certainly wasn't everybody. It wasn't every student. It wasn't every class that was assessed. But there was enough of not good news, I guess, if you will, that Ms. Harbor said we have to do something right away. That was actually one of the first things that she said to me when I started in this position about a year ago. She said we have to get going with something because this data is showing that this is not working.
Our children were making negative growth at the middle school.
I understand. I do understand that. It's just my problem with that is that moving it to the middle school, even though it was negative growth.
But our elementary schools were making positive.
But that still doesn't mean that's now, if you want to talk about, now we're starting to do KPIs. So now that we're starting to do KPIs, That doesn't mean just because our elementary students were doing very well, that doesn't mean that our middle school, this is effective for our middle school, because it's also a different teaching area and focus as well. So I'm just saying, why did we just jump in and bring it up into the middle school when we really wasn't sure that the things that we were adding in were definitely a direct indicator of the reason why our kids were succeeding at the elementary.
But the things that we've added in were the grammar and the writing piece at the elementary schools.
Okay, but what we already had at middle school is we know that our kids were not doing well at the PSSA in the middle school area. Like, why didn't we go back and look at how we were already teaching things and what was already in place and make those things effective and efficient? And because it seems as though that we jumped the things that were in the elementary, we just said, okay, just bring it up to the middle school.
So to be honest with you, for the past 3 summers, we paid middle school teachers to come together and work to bring their curriculum up to standards with the ELA. They worked every summer looking at the Pennsylvania Core and writing their curriculum. We weren't getting the results. For 3 summers, I paid them to do that, but our results was still negative growth. So I needed to do something to be able to say, okay, we need some change. I'm not telling you that we won't look at it. I'm not saying that we have, we just need to look, we're 16 weeks in. So let's look to see what kind of results. And kind of, I showed the results earlier that says that our kids went from, in 8th grade, 38% of our kids reading on grade level. In 16 weeks, that we have 58% of our kids reading on grade level.
My second question was gobs of grammar.
Yes.
Where did it come from?
Teachers pay teachers.
Is that how many other school districts are using it?
A lot of teachers around the country are downloading it. It's a downloadable format. As a support to their core program. It is not, as I said, it's not meant to be a standalone by any means. It's meant to support the core, the research-based core that we already had, because the teachers felt that there was not enough direct instruction grammar, and because of the tight timeline, I said, well, let's roll with this. Several teachers on the committee seemed to feel that, for lack of anything else and considering the time, this was better than nothing at all, and that it would assist with giving more grammar support because we hadn't had grammar in a while.
Is that normal to take things from teachers pay teachers? Like, is that the normal thing that occurs as far as pulling things off of there and utilizing them?
A lot of teachers do that around the country. I wouldn't say, oh, well, let's just base the whole entire curriculum K-6 on that. But for supports, if I can see that it appears to be aligned with the Common Core standards, which is where we're headed, and it will support the eligible content that our children are being tested on, again, it's a place to start.
All right, this young lady here, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, as the homeschool parent president at the middle school, from my observation, and I may be totally speaking out of turn, but have you guys thought of looking not just at the curriculum at the middle school, but at the learning environment and culture of the middle school? Could that be problematic in the middle school in terms of a block?
We are looking at that.
Learning? Okay.
Absolutely. I don't want you to think we're not.
Yes.
So I heard you say the Right Steps is the main program and Gobs of Grammar is the supplemental piece for the main program. Being that our main program does not provide us what our teachers and our students really need, are we looking at a new curriculum for this upcoming school year to replace this piece and this part?
So that's one of the things that we're going to look at this spring. What is it that is missing that our teachers feel should be better? What is it about Right Steps that is not right, if you will? It has been on the market for a relatively short amount of time, about 5 years. However, it has been written up in ASCD and District Administration, two educational administrations magazines, is one of the best writing programs to hit the market in a long time. Doesn't mean it's right for us. So we'll take a look. We'll see what else we can come up with. And as long as we look at standards and as long as we look at, are the kids going to have to cover everything that they need to cover at a grade level, we'll look and see what's there. But we also have to look and see how different it would be from what we currently have. Because I don't want to have something new just to have something new.
Right.
I mean, if it's not going to be any better, but it's not right steps, why bother? But again, until you get people together, until you get stuff in, you don't know.
So my second question was, a lot of school districts, they have their curriculum and their, what do you call it, assignments or whatever posted online. I know years ago, and I won't tell y'all what school districts I came from, but so years ago, like, the technology was already available. Why isn't it available for parents to assess our children's curriculum, or what is it called, like a syllabus or whatever for the school year or whatever? Why isn't that available online for us?
So, you heard me say when I was talking about the curriculum frameworks a couple slides ago, that you will be getting a roadmap next year for where we're going, assessments offered for each quarter, and so on and so forth. Many school districts, when they have a brand new curriculum framework such as that, they don't publish it the first year until it's been polished and tweaked and looked at a number of times to make sure it is what we want it to be. As I said, we're going to have one more grade level summit, just a one-dayer at the end of the year, making sure that things are in place. Because what I don't want to do is publish something online for you, and over the course of time we have changed it totally, and it doesn't even resemble what's online, at which point you're calling me and saying, online it says this and he's doing that. So, as I said, a lot of school districts take it the first year to make sure that it is what they want. And so that's where we are. So hopefully, Miguel, over the summer, as the grade levels have finalized things and we get things into place, we will start posting this online for you. After as I said, after the teachers do the second go around to make sure that it's cleaned up and it says exactly what we want it to.
Mr. McKay.
Yes.
Go ahead first.
With the, I saw your, Ms. Harbor showed, showed data that we're moving more of our kids to their instructional level. And my question is, not just at the, because we talked about the middle school, but at the elementary school, when we get our kids, you know, they're at their instructional level, what are we doing to move them up?
We are bringing in honors books. We are looking at bringing in the upper level books for those children at that level to start. And it comes down to, and I'm not going to tell you it's going to hinder us because we will do it, bringing in those resources, bringing in so that those kids are getting exposed to higher level text, more informational text, doing some of the research that the units with research, so that they are, that's happening there too.
Mr. McKay, I remember 1991 when Dr. O'Toole was the superintendent here, and we had Eleanor Silvers, who was, it could have been our last superintendent director. We had a framework. We had a framework, and we put it in a binder. I guess, real quick, are we doing that here? Are we putting the curriculum in a binder?
So what the teachers have is they got the original copy of all of this stuff at the beginning of the year, and I believe one evening we went over that at the Education Committee back in the fall.
Yeah.
So the curriculum frameworks that I flashed up there tonight, they are sort of like part 2 of that. So do I have a big a big blue or white or gray binder for everybody right now today. No. We're building that
Yeah, but I'm gonna.
so that they will have the pacing,
Right.
they will have the curriculum frameworks, they will have any quizzes that they need for all the different subject areas all together in one place, and they can go right there, pick that up, teacher's guides here, see where the two correlate to make sure that they're on pace.
All right, now,
Like a physical binder or like just stored somewhere?
there was a big binder, and then the teachers had their own binders in their classroom.
Yes, sir. A lot of school
All right.
districts do that.
To continue that question, I'm hearing very good questions and answers coming from the public.
Yes, sir.
But what we was able to do, because that was going to be something, hopefully we can talk about next month, how we was able to do that with the strategic plan. And by doing that strategic plan, we just not only involve the teachers, like my wife was saying that she's a volunteer in the community. So we had a lot of volunteers who participated in that, and it turned out an outstanding framework, because at that particular time we didn't have anything. So if we can move towards that type of function, maybe we can see that the parents, the teachers, and anyone else, we're all partners in this. So we can do that, come up with a partnership, put this framework together that we all participate. Now we have ownership, and maybe won't be as many questions, and the parents feel as though they don't have input, but now you have input. So that would be something we can talk about next month, that
Sure.
we can put all that together.
Absolutely. And I think that having the teachers as part of our framework writing, I think that's been very important to get that buy-in from staff, because...
And the parents too.
And the parents too. And I believe that once we're able to publish some of these online, as Ms. Miller asked about, I believe the parents will feel even more informed and empowered.
All right, I guess we got 10 minutes, you could get the lead.
One of the things, my experience for my child was different. At the elementary school, her PSS, I based her growth off of her PSSA scores. And so at the...
Thank you. Okay, everybody, if you didn't sign in, can you sign in before you leave? Thank you.
Thank you, educators, for coming. Thank you, teachers. Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciated your feedback. Just wanted to say that because everybody's leaving.
I based my children's success off their PSSA scores. So when my child was in the elementary schools, they were mediocre. But then by the time she got to the middle school, she was in appropriate classes, and she was in the advanced courses, and she's advanced and proficient now. So I had the opposite experience with my particular child at the middle school, where my child excelled very well at the middle school, with the exception of one class. I printed out, because I do my own research, of course, and I printed out the Pennsylvania school code. And the reason why I did that, and I have copies for you guys if you want, the reason why I did that is because I hear tonight a consensus of a lot of us patching a lot of different things up. And, for example, in the school code it says language arts, integrating, this is one of the pieces that we're supposed to have, language arts integrating reading, writing, phonics, spelling, listening, speaking, literature, and grammar, and information management, including library skills. And I didn't see any of that tonight. So that's what I'm curious about, with the we used the word vocabulary. So that's the thing. Why is it that we have to, number one, stay with this program, and number two, why can't we just get a program that has what we need, as opposed to buying all these small components of different things? I don't understand this.
Well, Success for All is a reading program, and they will tell you they are a reading program. So therefore, some of the language arts components that you mentioned in there, that are such as the writing, such as the grammar, they are not focused within the program that we currently have. So therefore, that is why we at this time have a second language arts block in addition to the reading, to make sure that we are able to cover those skills and strategies for the kids.
So, okay, so that means that Success for All, we took a reading program and we added different, to to cover everything that's in the standard, right? We took the reading program and just start purchasing other materials to make it one complete program versus there is programs out there that have everything in it that she mentioned. So my question, and we can talk about it later, but why not go with one program that has everything versus paying money and we have Success for All and now we're buying all these other materials to cover and fill in bases? And you might not, I know this is your first year, you know, as the curriculum director, but I'm saying,
I get one pass.
I don't, because I don't want you to, I don't want it as if I'm like attacking you with the question. I know you're
understand
trying
that.
to put things together to make it work for us right now, but I think that what she poses is a great point. Because we're actually, if you think about it, and you want to talk about spending money, we're spending money. We have Success for All, and now we're picking all these other tools and things up to bring in to make one whole. Whereas programs like Hardcore out there that has all of this, that covers everything in the standard. So that's just something I just taking a look at and listening to what she's saying. It kind of makes sense.
So do we have an agreement at the end of the year, if we see the Success for All, like I said, I believe in compromising, it's working in elementary school, but it's not working in upper grades. We need to take a look at it and see that we can move forward. I'm glad that Ms. Lewis mentioned the library. I mean, now I'm going to take a look and see who's going to the library. The teachers scheduling trips to the library and how involved the librarian is, you know, as far as research, you know, with the students, how they're being helpful. So that's a very critical point. So, but it's, you know, it's getting late. We got 5 minutes. Here, we got 5 minutes. Yes.
I just wanted to say that when we did have Harcourt, we had to have another writing program. Harcourt is not a writing program. So you would still have to have another writing program.
Okay,
So
so
even if
that's
you had Harcourt, we had a writing program.
Okay.
So those buildings that, when we had Harcourt, you still had to have a writing program.
You had to go online and get.
Either way.
typical.
And grammar. So
I actually taught Harcourt, and they had a writing program and they had a grammar program, and I've always been, at the time that I was teaching, I was still achieving above average test scores. I taught it for years, and I have been a teacher for 15 years, and the test scores have always showed that they've been quality, and I've always followed that writing program and followed the components to it. We may have said we didn't like it and didn't like components of it, and I understand that, but here we're patching so many different things up. It's a lot of money that we're spending. And yesterday, even at the budget finance meeting that I was at yesterday, we talked about how we're broke. We don't have very much money. We are playing catch up. So why do we have to keep purchasing this after this after this after this? And my child is not achieving the way I need her to achieve because she doesn't have a comprehensive program. I need that for my child. I need her to be successful.
Mr. McKay, do you know anything about that, with regard to like the Hardcore program, what they're stating about the Hardcore program or other programs out there that have all, you know, everything together?
So there are numerous types of literacy programs out there.
Okay.
What I will say is each one has strengths in different component areas.
Okay.
I was not in the district when, as Mrs. Bates was saying, they had another reading program and they had to have a writing program on top of that.
Okay.
So I can't speak to how that worked here.
Okay.
And I haven't seen the latest iteration of Harcourt, so I couldn't speak to that.
Lower
But-
Merion uses it, so you can see it there.
So, but each, you know, every material that you buy has really good, excellent points. And other points of the program where teachers will say, I don't really like this, or I don't think this is enough. I have not, as I said, I have not examined anything else recently because since I've been here in William Penn and started the year that SFA started.
Yeah, I'm just asking to become knowledgeable as well. You know,
Right.
like I said, I'm not an educator, but it's best to ask the people that are doing
Sure,
it. That's
sure, and so you always want to look for best practice.
Okay, thank you.
All right, here's a question I want to raise. Maybe that's your question. Obviously, we cannot get to the cycle for continuous improvement or upcoming projects and plans, so we already know what's going to be on the next education meeting. I would like to ask what else you would like to be added. That's something we don't normally do. Do you have a suggestion?
I do. I would like the overview of the high school curriculum to be included in that.
Overview of high school curriculum?
Curriculums, plural.
Okay. Anyone else? This is how you can have ownership.
Yeah, and Ms. Smith, I agree with you that we've not, we need to do that piece of it. We've always found that these meetings have been focused towards elementary and middle school. That is a piece that, starting with the course guide and talking about those types of things. And we will bring people in from the high school to kind of go over that for you, because they're the experts.
Mr. Ray, I think one thing, I don't know if it's an agenda type topic, but I'd be interested to see how parents and community are adding the curriculum at home as well. Like, at home curriculum is very important. And for example, figuring out where the goals that they have for their child's educational success, if we're not meeting it for some reason, what are folks doing at home to supplement and to fill in that gap? We have a very good mix of very involved parents here, and I know a lot of, but it's the same parents, so I think what you can be, as the involved parents, you could be teaching or giving best practices to parents who aren't doing some of the things that you're doing. Because I know what I'm doing. I'm a parent as well, and I totally believe in SFA. What my child's been able to do in school, read any word anywhere, and spell it and articulate it, definitions. But I'd be real interested to see what successful parents are doing to supplement at home.
All right, so we'll have to ask.
But that could be it could be any time.
Yes.
I wanted to ask, at the high school level, I know there are,
What you would like to see
that's what I'm
on the
talking
agenda.
about. I would like to see at the high school level, how many students are in some of these AP courses. Because I know my daughter had a very difficult time getting into the art AP course last year because her teacher didn't want her to take it because she said she was taking 3 other AP courses and she didn't want her to take it. And come to find out, only 2 students signed up for that course. So I want to know, is it beneficial for us to pay for teachers to teach to 2 students in a classroom and try to limit how many students are in some of these AP courses? I don't think that's fair for our kids.
All right, so, okay.
I would like to know how many students are in some of these AP courses and whether or not we should be, exactly streamlining those courses.
Right now, I know 261 of our students are taking AP courses. Now, I can't tell you, I can't break it down.
No,
by
that's
course.
what I want. I want
Okay.
a breakdown of
Okay.
which ones we should keep, which ones are not benefiting our kids, which ones can be streamlined. Because if it's 2 kids in a classroom, that sounds to me like an art honors class. And then those kids that wants to send those documents to an AP course, they can. Because they get them graded or whatever. They send them into College Board. But that's an art honors class if you're not submitting, the work to the College Board. So why would we pay for a teacher to be sitting in a room with 2 students when they can be teaching to a whole class?
Okay, but they're not sitting in a room with 2 classes. If that were the case, it would be melded with another class and 2 different curriculums taught at
But
the
I
same
was
time.
told that the honors courses are the same as the AP courses, and my daughter was told that she couldn't take an AP course. So I just wanted to know the breakdown of how many students was in some of these AP courses.
Sometimes they will advise, they did it with my son also, no, you're not going to take 5 AP classes. That was logical, and quite frankly, my son was not being logical, so I can support that, so.
But art is fun. Art is not
No,
necessarily.
but AP art is a big deal. It is not, it is
I'm not
rigorous.
arguing that.
Right.
I know, art is serious especially, it was one of the things that my daughter was very interested in. I'm not arguing that, Jen. What I'm saying is, if honors and AP is on the same track, why would we not allow a student to at least take the honors piece?
I don't believe that they are on the same track, but I'll definitely look into it.
Okay, I was told differently.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up. It's pretty, you have one? Then I'll skip mine.
I would like to know 2 things. One, just like you said, as far as what the parents are doing,
what the elementary teachers and all teachers are doing that are making success. What are they doing different, or what supports they need across the board to help everyone achieve? And also, I would like to know or find out how much research you guys are doing into what additional reading programs are out there that may offer everything. And if you do find a program out there, because the question keeps getting asked. It was even asked before Ms. Harper became superintendent at the meeting before she was elected, but it was never answered. And I'd like to know the answer, what programs are out there, and if there are other programs out there, are we stuck with this, or are we looking to get a program that encompasses everything that we need? And I just wanted to make a suggestion before. It seems like a lot of questions that parents are asking, I like the card idea. A lot of them are consistent questions that we're asking. So maybe if before the next meeting, if we have a forum or somewhere where we can submit questions to you, because I know a lot of times we're asking good questions, and like Mr. McKay or Ms. Harper, you might feel on the spot and you're like, good question.
Is there a way to
Well,
ask questions through eSchool? Is there a communication piece now?
That's not available for
Not yet.
everybody.
Okay.
So it's not going to be K through 12. There is some, but I think that's a very good
But I would
suggestion.
like for you to come to the meeting with answers rather than just saying, good question. I want the
Okay.
data, as we keep saying.
So we can certainly, especially for education committee meetings, as long as Mr. Wright's okay with it, we can certainly keep up with the cards, at least for
Yeah, I
right
think that's a
now,
great
until we
idea.
come up with another solution. That way, if people have to go, or came in late, and maybe it was asked already and they didn't want to ask again, at least you would get heard, and at least you get, as you said, an answer back. And until we can come up with maybe another method, at least get that started first and see how that goes. Because everyone should have the opportunity to be heard, but again, with evening meetings, sometimes you have to get home to get people there. So,
All right, before I add what we should talk about, everybody we see this, we have a STEM career night at Delaware County Community College. It's outstanding. I hope everybody be able to attend. And
Mr. Wright, can I add to that?
Yeah,
Just
go
a
ahead.
little bit?
Good.
We have given this to all of our science teachers at the high school, that we've asked them to distribute this. We will provide a bus that night for our children from the middle school students and high school. We will, once we have who's going, because they're supposed to, I know that Ms. Tiff sent out a permission slip from the middle school. I know that the science teachers provided it. Once we know, we can then say we'll pick what our time we're picking up at the middle school. We'll pick up at the middle school. We will pick up at Cypress. We will pick up at Green Avenue. We will take them out to the college for the STEM night, and then we will bring them back. But as soon as we have a good number of how many people are really going to go, then we can communicate to you what the exact times are, okay? But we will get that out, especially to the parents where the kids have signed up.
Excellent. And what I would like to add, because I represent the Winnipeg School District with Delaware County Community College, and at one time we were leading all 15 school districts in dual enrollment. We somehow dropped from 54 to 31. So I would like to put dual enrollment on our next agenda and find out that's a way how students can get college credits while they're in high school. And so we can discuss that. All right, before everybody goes, first of all, let's give the parents a round of applause for staying at 9 o'clock.
Can we give the teachers who came
Yeah.
here?
And the children still here.
Yep, there.
And the school board. All right.
And the parents, and the volunteers, Mrs. Wright.
Yes. And first, I'd like to thank all of the presenters. I thank Ms. Harper. This is her first education meeting being the superintendent. And I think, we give her a round of applause. I think she's here taking notes. We are going to move forward. And in closing, Malcolm X once said, education is our passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to the people prepared for it today. And that's what we're talking about here tonight. So thank you and God bless.
Thank you, Mr. Wright.